Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 51. Hope all you guys out there are doing well, taking care of yourself, and remember, don't put limits on this life. Live your best life. You belong to be here and doing everything that you're doing. Keep pushing, keep grinding. That being said, we would also like to thank our next guest, which all of you know, Kristian Woodmansee. He's a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Kandray Law. Also owns one of the greatest and best online Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu curriculums that you can get signed up for, Logicphilly BJJ online. Look in the show notes for a discount code for you guys to go out there and get all the content. It's great. We want to thank our sponsors. Chad and I couldn't do this show each and every week without them. True Tubes Tattoo Supply. Derb Morrison in Columbus, Ohio has been a huge supporter of this show. He's an alum of the show. Go back and check out his show. RollAmongUs.com. Limitless 20 at checkout. Get a 20% discount. BattleBomb.com for all your CBD and non-CBD rubs. They even have rub for new, fresh tattoos or to keep your tattoos looking great. Limitless 20 at checkout for a 20% discount. Also, we want to thank Magic City Brewing Company. If you're local here in Stark County or anywhere, we're asking you guys to share this to everyone. Go check them out in Akron, Ohio. They're a great brewery. Jay Graham, owner, is an amazing teammate at Team East Coast. So go out there and support all our sponsors. We appreciate it very much. Without further ado, I want you to throw your headphones on or turn up that volume. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Almost went blank there for a minute. Starting off the show, but it's all good. So we have an awesome guest in today. He is not only an alumni, he's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, the owner of Logicphilly BJJ in Philly, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I screwed that up all the time. Anyway, I'm having a great day, apparently. So Kristian Woodmansee's with us. He's a good friend of the show. He's a good friend of ours. He has done a ton of coaching with us and taught me a ton of stuff. And hey, man, Kristian, thanks for being here. And sorry for screwing that all up. It's awesome.
It'd be kind of cool to be in Ohio, be closer to you guys. But no, I appreciate you guys having me. It's nice being invited to come on more than one time. I really appreciate you guys. So it's always nice. I would do this with you guys every Sunday if you wanted to. Just to so yeah.
You have great jiu-jitsu content and great life content, man. Like we always, it's funny because we can be like not talk for a while, and it's like that old saying where people are like, oh, you have a good friend when you don't see him for a while, but you just pick up and you're like, yo, what's up? And you just like, you never put the phone down. You know what I mean? Like it's golden. Like that
it's funny because I experienced that with you guys, and like, man, there'll be times where like I'm super busy, like Chad will text me and I literally I'm like, fucking, there's 1,000 things going on, and like I know Chad's just kind of like, he'll get back to me or whatever it be. Like I'll respond to Chad and like I'll be super engaged in the conversation, but like it's nice that we have the connections that we do. It's nice that you guys are who you are as human beings, and I really appreciate and respect it a lot. So yeah, I mean it's nice that if I could, I'd be with you guys every fucking day. It's crazy.
Well, and like Kristian said, it's cool. Like I'll just text him out of the blue, and it's not like to want anything. It's like, hey man, how you doing? What's going on?
It's very cordial, brotherly. Yeah, it's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, fuck, Chad's such a great guy, And then I got someone else texting me like, can I get a discount code? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like to talk to Chad, like
you and Klingerman a couple times a week, I'll at least reach out and say, hey, what's going on? You guys good? Or, just to talk.
Yeah. It's funny, the people that mean the most to us, sometimes you don't need to talk to as much, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but you guys are good dudes, and I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you, man. It's like having those guys at your table, like we were talking before, like, and we can get into it. I'm okay with it. I feel comfortable with you guys talking about it, but I was talking about like some mental illness stuff that I'm kind of going through a little bit with Kristian, and he's like, yo, you need me, call me, brother. Like, and not that no one would ever do that, but that means a ton because it's like having someone at your table that's going to support and understands what you're going through. And it doesn't have to be like everything, like I just said. We haven't talked like in a while, and haven't seen each other for a while, but it's like boom, right, instantly.
Right,
it's like nah.
It's nice to just be able to sit down and just eat, So
sure,
it's nice that the jiu-jitsu community kind of like breeds people like that. I think that's why it brings us together initially. Or maybe it's like a character like filtration system, and like then you show up and you're kind of like, okay, well, which of these people do I want to kind of do that with? But you mean like Yeah, I know I could fucking call Chad probably 2:00 in the morning and say, we need to borrow your car. And he'll be like, yeah, whatever.
Go.
And again, like you could do the same thing for me. I could do the same thing to you, like
for sure.
We have that ability to be like, but Terry, what's up? What's going on? And sometimes you need people to check in on you. Sometimes you reach out to them so they can check in on you, but it's nice like that, and it's that's why I love jiu-jitsu, because even though I hate people, I love but that's one of them.
It's kind of funny because I say it all the time to my wife, like kind of secretly. I'll be like, she's like, hey, we're going to go do this thing. And I'm like, I hate people. She's like, you do a podcast and you talk to all kinds of people. And I'm like, I know, I don't really hate people. It's just what people do I really hate. Or if I get engaged in, which I don't engage with people on social media because of that reason. But if I read stuff, I'm like, oh, I really do hate people.
People, the biggest issue with people, other than they exist, is that they talk, So, I mean, if you kind of limit who you talk to, it doesn't make it as bad. But I mean, people have a lot of potential to be really good assets to the world, But
for sure, yeah, definitely, man.
It's a weird thing,
It is, and social media hasn't helped, or the news in general. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not something like I agree with you, like that. But there's that 1% of the people that social media has helped because of social media.
Because of 100%.
Yeah, I mean, imagine like we were talking about Wiltsey, right? Like,
yeah,
Wiltsey's latest communication about like his specific like personal experience and sharing out with people, right? That wouldn't create as much of an impact, and not many people be impacted by if it wasn't for social media, So I mean, there's that potential, and you just kind of like see whatever. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wasted potential, and it kind of is unbalanced, at least from my perspective. But I mean, from somebody else's perspective, could be the opposite, So whatever fucking makes you happy. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it at the end of the day. I'm like, all right, if that makes you happy, man, like you keep doing you. Like you keep, like peace, like I don't need to be a part of that. Like I'm
just get the fuck away from me. That's fine.
Right. You think it's got watered down, like social media in terms of jiu-jitsu?
I think I wouldn't say because of social media, but I think right now what's really big and it's more easily spread with social media is like this, like weird current thing of like this entitlement and like natural, like don't step on my triggers. I'm entitled for your respect. And I've got white belts telling me how to do jiu-jitsu, which is cool. Like, but I think you just got to be a really confident person on social media and, but like confident with an open mind, So I mean, like you don't want to just go in there and be like, hey, I'm right, they're wrong. But you want to, if something kind of pokes at your point of view, you want to be able to either constructively talk about it if it's important to you, or you're just going, it is what it is, But it's a savage world out there, So you either gotta build up your armor or you gotta fucking hide, So I'd rather just build up my armor, but I mean, teach their own.
Yeah, that's how I was when I started. I was always leery about posting videos of myself doing jiu-jitsu on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever. And, Terry and I talk, he's like, just do it. Somebody's going to criticize, somebody's got an answer for everything.
100%. You can post it with a fucking kitten and someone's going to say, I hate cats.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I hate cats. I mean, I won't say that, but I mean, like, you're going to always, just people are going to disagree,
Yeah.
And the thing too is like, Chad sends me stuff. I'm like, this is great. It's just my opinion, but like, I think it's great. But someone else is going to be like, this is dog shit. And it's like, who are you? Like,
who are you?
Yeah. Sorry, Bob.
I posted that one not too long ago, the Sao Paulo pass, and some dude's like, that stuff never works. Yeah. I'm like, well, are you doing it right? Or what?
It's a boss, absolute statement, friend.
Yeah.
That's what's even how to say this humbly. Like, I sometimes feel a certain way about posting some of the things that I want to post. Because like I don't really feel good. I definitely don't teach or speak from a standpoint of I don't have experience with, but like I have this thing now, like double-handed signing, right? Like I have this thing now where like people are like dumbfounded where they're like, oh, well, show a technique. And I'm like, I'm not, why? I'm like, no, this is what I want to teach. And I literally limit how much money I make because what I only want to teach only hits a certain percentage of people. Right. And I'm really sitting here like, man, if I just like, was teaching showing this stupid fucking technique and making it go viral. Like I literally will go on Instagram and see 16,000 likes on someone doing the most awful dog shit technique I've ever seen. It's just my opinion. You know, it doesn't mean, you know, and then I'll post a sick conceptual thing. And you've got like 18 world-class dudes that are saying something, but it'll have out of 500 likes, you know, and you're kind of like, what's going on in the world, you know? But like, again, like, yeah, people are like technique. And I'm like, well, that's the 97% of people. Leave me the fuck alone. I want to talk to these people, you know? So, it's a crazy world, man. It's a weird world for the jiu-jitsu community, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
That's why I asked about like the watered down part. And I guess watered down wouldn't be the right way, but just the feeding of that content of being like non-technical, but looks cool, but you know what I mean? But in the looks cool stuff has, you know, the millions of likes and whatever. And the other stuff that's really technique and really good jujitsu is like, you know, 500. And you're like, what the, cause I'll scroll through and see stuff and I'll be like, what? Or like, if you know, when you've posted stuff all the time, watching it and I'll see someone else like make a comment or whatever, or like I always read your stuff. Like if you comment back and I'm always like, this other person's an idiot. I'm a white belt and I know this. Like
the BJ Fanatics Facebook group, I live to comment. I'll be like looking at it. I'm just like, oh, this feels so good, you know? But like, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I think what you have to just realize is kind of like, again, like you just build up your own maybe, but like, I'm like, man, my jiu-jitsu is not for everybody, you know? And
sure.
I communicate who it's for as well. So I'm not just kind of leading people down a rabbit hole and being like, come here, you know? But like the problem that I got is then I'll even out loud be like, hey, so like you'll buy a Danaher DVD or you'll buy a Gordon Ryan DVD, which is cool. That supports them, you know, and that's awesome. But you want to imitate the result and you're not really going to put in the work. And by the way, this is the work that needs to put in because that's why your jiu-jitsu sucks. And I actually prefer if you stay there because that's why my value is higher because I put in the work. So just stay there, you know, like people are like, you know, I'm like, oh, whatever, you know, like cool, man. You know, it's like, yeah, Gordon did that rep 10,000 times, you know, and you watched it 15 times. So you're
right. And those guys would say the same. They would say, you're not putting in the work. This is why it's not working for you. Oh, this doesn't work. It's like, well, you're not putting the work in, man. Like you're not doing this, you know. It was awesome. You know, side story, not a huge deal. Great kid that came in the other day. Chad asked me to work with him. It was his first night. You know, we're going through the motions and just training. And I just was letting him do the move most of the time. Not that I don't need it, but I've done it. So I was familiar with it. So we were just doing X pass, you know. Donkey kick out, knee on belly, you know, leg weave. It reminded me of a leg weave post that you just posted about kind of leg weaving, but then floating kind of in the air back over. So I kind of brought that up to Chad and Tim Stinson. Yeah, was there and I was talking to him about it too. But the young man was like, man, he goes, this is way harder than I thought. And I was like, would you watch some stuff on TV or something and think it was going to be easy? Because he would look down. He's like, how long you been here? I was like, you know, just 2 years, February 11th. It's been 2 years. He's like, and you're still a white belt. And I was like, yeah, dude, it takes a long time, man. But you have to be here. You got to put in the time. I said, people can do it faster, but they live it. And I said, those are usually high end. I'm hobbyist, man. I'll be 45 in May. And he's like, wow, okay, this is a lot harder. And I even think at one point, Chad, you came over and he was like the cardio part. Remember, he was like, I'm tired. You know what I'm talking about. And I'm not a bad kid. I'm not saying anything bad about him at all. I hope he comes back. But it was just interesting to see that perspective, knowing that I've been there, you know, a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I guess I can see that.
You're using muscles and things that you just don't use daily.
Right.
You know, that who knows what he does for a living or what, you know,
sure.
It's just, there's just so much wrapped up into that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like going to the gym and lifting weights either for the first time or for not very long time. You're like, oh, I'm sore. Like, yeah, lift again. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I mean,
yeah,
that's a solution, you know, but yeah, I mean, I think the great thing about jujitsu, and I think that the reason why it's in terms of a martial art, it's a little bit more impacting, especially from a business point of view, is that you have this constant in your face, like accountability of like what your value is, right? You know, like I'm all for hitting pads in Muay Thai. I'll smash pads in Muay Thai. The pads don't hit back, you know? Sure. Sometimes they're like, hey, like, oh, that was good. It was a 1-1-2, not a 1-2-1. Yeah, but like no one's fixing my technique. And like I'll literally be over top of you while you're doing something. I'm like, hey, that was awesome if you were doing it poorly, you know? So let's not do it poorly again and do it a different way, you know? But like And then you train with somebody, you probably get your shit pushed in, and you're like, fuck, like, I suck. And it's like, yeah, but you're going to suck for a long time.
Long time.
Like,
Sure.
Hitting the pads, it's like, oh, I feel like I don't suck, and no one's telling me that. And that's why you hear some of the Gracies like, hey, we're not going to roll for a year because we don't want people to feel that negative voice. Yeah, and it's like, I tell people all the time, like, dude, man, here, if you're going to sign this agreement, like, just know that you are going to suck. And if for some reason you don't even rely on it, like, you should suck. And like, you don't need to be the best in the world, but everybody in here started before you. So unless someone comes in after you, and there's a possibility that they're going to suck too. I mean, like, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, but ability it's tough for people to deal with, because you all of a sudden see like, oh, I'm responsible for sucking, and it's like, skirt,
Right.
Yeah. I think I said those exact words to you once, Terry, is you should suck, right?
Yeah,
a little bit.
You did. You told me, like, because I was, I think I might have texted you like a night I came home from the gym and I was like, man, I just suck at jujitsu. Like, and cause he was like, are you all right? I think, and this is a while ago, like I jetted kind of early, and he could tell, like, he can read my body language pretty well now. I just got out of there, got home, and, he texted me if I'm all right. And I'm like, man, my jujitsu sucks. Like, I was probably riding that road of debating whether I really wanted to do this anymore. And he said, your jujitsu should suck, but you don't suck. You know what I mean? It was, and I'm sure I could dig it up. I still have it probably on that thread. And it was good, because then I started thinking about it. Like, you're right. Like, I have to suck to get better, but it's not, and people have to understand what that means. And Kristian just explained it perfectly. You're on a totem pole when you start jujitsu, and everyone that's already been there, man, even if it's a day more, they're a little bit better than you are, because they already know what to expect, So then I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to relax and not, I think I was putting a lot of pressure on myself.
Oh, absolutely.
You no matter what you're involved in your life, if you want to be successful, you put pressure on yourself. At least, hey, everyone out there listening, you should put pressure on yourself, all right, to be good at life. And so I think I just kind of did that, and that's where my road of going, oh, this is terrible. And then I started calming down, and I started going slower, like kind of in my rolling, to where, not slower in terms of, let's say, resistance. Like, I let things happen. I didn't try to like fight it with muscle, and like, I was just like, just relax, man, chill out, and whatever happens. And then it's been awesome since. And, not that it wasn't awesome before that, but it's changed a ton. And I think everyone kind of goes through that. And you guys have obviously been in the world for a very long time. So, and
you'll keep going through that. I mean, we've all had that, drive home with the radio down night, right? Where you just think about everybody that kicked, no matter what rank you are, Jay Stu kicks my butt all the time, and baseball chokes me 19 times. Right. You have those days where the hammer and the nail thing. Right.
I think you want to think about too, is like, I usually say this to people right away. It's like part of my spiel, is that if you didn't suck, would you want to train here? Because if you were day 2 and you're training with somebody at 2 years and you were somehow not sucking, I would say we're doing a horrible job. You should probably not sign up here yet.
Right.
I think it's, here's the thing is, like, let's say there was 2 different Terrys, right? And they both signed up the same day. They started at the same time, and they had the same mind. You had a twin. And that's why twins, usually they're both good. They both suck. Right. There's this thing where it's like, hey, like, if one Terry trained 3 times a day and one Terry trained 3 times a week, then you'll start to see that sucking will start to change a little bit. Right. But that doesn't change the fact that guy's still sucking. They just,
right.
So it just takes time, and that's the thing, is like, you got to put a turkey in the oven. It's got to bake for X amount of, like, you turn it up. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's going to taste like shit. I mean, you can do what you want to do, but often people have this unrealistic expectation, and it's like, the problem is too, is I'll have people then say to me like, oh, well, it's been a year and a half. I haven't got my blue belt. And I'm like, okay, and it's like, I should have gotten by now. And I'm like, who told you that? Like, oh, that's what I thought. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, that's why you're a white belt, because you thought you knew when you get your blue belt. And I even told you what you need to do to your blue belt. You said you understood, you're not doing it. So that's why you're not a blue belt, but, yeah, but you got your blue belt in 4 months. Yeah, but I put in more work than you did. That's why I was a blue belt in 4 months. I mean, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, when you want to compare, we can train. I don't know. then you just got to hold yourself accountable. I think the great thing about Chad, well, it's great that you guys are connected, right? You can be like, hey, Chad, like what can I improve on? What can I focus on to grow and actually see if I needed to see growth? What would you suggest? And you're like, all right, cool. This, if you want to see your guard get past, it takes longer to pass the guard, do this. You want to see, and that's why you have the value of a black belt instructor to be like, hey, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of people, again, they either don't have that conversation or they don't hold themselves accountable, like, that's why I tell people, like, I think I told a story on here, but when I got to Atos HQ, I didn't score a single point for a month and a half in comp class. And I already showed up winning things, and I was like, I'm good, but like, I was at the bottom of the totem pole, and like, although I was good, everybody there was better, and man, I'm telling you right now, like, I was in a dark place. I was like, this is stupid. I'm on the opposite side of the country. I'm a world champion. I'm entitled to being good at jiu-jitsu. And like, I'm going with people and they're just shitting on me, and I went from being in that dark place for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5, 6. And I'm like, man, like, what are we doing? And I literally just sat down with myself and I said, okay, Lier's passing in 45 seconds. I need to not let him pass for a minute. And then I did that. And I went from a minute to a minute and a half to 2 to 3. Right. And then I saw that I still sucked, still got past, but I could see my growth. And then I could be more confident and less negative with myself until it went from, it took him 6 minutes to now he doesn't pass, and then he stops sucking, but a lot of people, again, it takes accountability and some people just want to give up, but like, that's why there's that, hey, you need to earn this and whatever it may be. And you'll look back and be like, I'm glad I did it. And that's, yeah. And then you get your blue belt and I fucking earned this. And you get my purple belt, I fucking earned this, and brown belt, and you earn it. And that's it.
I think that's what we talked. I did a private with Kristian, and when Brad did that private that one time, and I was kind of the partner in that. And you talked about that with Brad, and I really try to carry that on with those small goals like you're talking about. We all have those big goals, blue belts next, purple belts next, whatever, but what's in between there? Yeah. That's what's going to keep everybody going. Is like, if you're coming into a role with a black belt and be like, your goal is to tap him, that's not a achievable goal. If you're a white belt. Yeah. So what is your goal? Don't get swept 14 times with a tripod sweep, Terry. Something like that.
I've gotten better.
It's down to 12.
It's down to 12 now. Right.
But yeah, I think those small goals aren't talked about enough.
Of course. Well, I'm even cool with someone initially starting. Like, I've had this very clear communication, maybe like 8 times, where someone's like, yeah, I want that. And I'm like, all right, cool. Right. And then they don't get it. And then they're like, hey, I still want it, but their motivation is positive and they're seeing it in a different way. Right.
Right.
Most people want that. They don't hit it. And then their result is, yeah, I don't care. It's like insanity. And it's
yeah. Yep.
Like I have students that are like, I want my purple belt. And I'm like, all right, cool. This X, Y, and Z, and then like, they literally are like, got it, and then they don't do X. And I'm like, are we having a conversation?
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, no, like I know I need to do it. I just didn't do it. And I'm like, cool. We're still positive, like that positivity is still there. They don't, and if they need to make a micro goal, sure. If they don't, but they're just remaining positive. It's when that negative happens and it's like, well, what are you doing? It's like fucking insanity. Like, I look at you and I'm like, do you know? Yeah. I'm just not doing it, but like, I don't care. I just still want it anyway. And I fucking shouldn't be that, but it's tough. A lot of people, again, like, certain people don't need to make smaller goals, I guess, maybe because their actual initial goal. They're just like, no, I just want to be here.
Right.
Fucking whatever makes you happy, but when you're not making the choice that makes you happy and it's negative and you're like, like, well, fucking eat it. That's what you chose to do.
For sure. Actually, and to go back to what you were saying, Chad, to piggy off what Kristian said before that, and you actually told me that after that. And then we talked about it more and openly in class, like, hey, make little goals. Like, hey, if you're going against a certain belt, whatever, goofy as it is, maybe is pick, I'm only getting tapped X amount of times, or I'm only going to get swept X amount of times. You know what I mean? Like, I started going, you know what? Like, I'm trying to think of all this jiu-jitsu knowledge in my head as I'm rolling, instead of just working on, chains from A to B to C, which both of you teach that same exact way, like always, like learn this, go to this, so on and so forth. So then I was like, I'm going to just focus on doing that from now on, keep myself accountable. Don't worry about anything else. And if I go into something, I'm like, I'm not getting tapped unless I get into the position. So my goal is not to get in a position to be tapped. And, versus, I'm going to fight this armbar. Well, no, I'm just not going to get in that position to get armbarred. Like that's a goal for me. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Chad.
Everybody wants to try to do the things they don't know versus what they do know. Like what we do, what we drill, what we do every day in class, right? That's the stuff. And it's hard because everybody wants to go to their strong game or, it's all, where am I going to go to win? Well, we're in the room. So don't worry about winning. We'll work on what you need to work on. Right. People still get into, we do the whole leg weave thing. And guys will I get a knee shield and they try to bury through my knee shield. It's like, no, reset the guard, X pass the other side.
Pass, yeah.
It, that kind of stuff. It's just like, you have to put yourself in there and be okay failing in that position.
Yes. 100%.
Failing. Like Chad said, he's not joking when he said, typically, and like I said, I'm going to give myself a little credit. I have gotten better at getting tripod swept. But,
it was 12, it's now 10.
Right. By the end of the show, it'll be 1.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like it was okay. It was like, okay, I don't really know how to defend this, but the biggest goal was like, Chad was like, don't be so hesitant. Don't kind of give me your arms up. Like when you're entering, to get those grips and be able to put his foot on my hip if he, goes to guard right away or whatnot. So I started thinking about that kind of stuff or how to move past that kind of stuff. And it's gotten better. I don't allow him to do that so much. And that's something you have to accept. You just have to accept it in the jiu-jitsu world. Like you can't just be like, like Chad says, like, I'm just going to power through this. It's like, okay, well, you can, but you're probably going to put yourself in a worse position than you're in right now by just powering through. Cause that's all.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So when it doesn't work, then don't sit here and like, that's the same solution. I'll just do it again.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I'm all for powering through, Go
I never did ask you this week, Chad, when you kept blocking the leg weave. And I was like, you're like, I'm blocking it because I can kind of see it. I know what you're going to do, which is clear. Is there actually a way to block that in general?
Well, I just kind of, I don't need a lot of space to get my knees back in, right? With my dexterity of my legs. So Kristian, I will purposely, if somebody steps in the pocket to X pass me, I will purposely turn my knee the other way to block the knee cut, but it does open up the leg weave. And I know that. So when they go to leg weave, I just kind of,
you're just prepared and you're a step ahead.
Yes. I'm prepared for that.
You're like funneling them. Yeah. You're like, hey, like, I know this is very open for you, but I also know it's very open for you. So if you want to come down this rabbit hole, Yeah.
And I said that when I was teaching it, like, yes, I purposely block the knee cut knowing what could happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay if
your
what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. Your funnel. That's
100. I would even say it's because of the communication, you can be like, hey, like this is the only thing you can do. And then you would say if the person didn't have success while knowing that path, I would say they even though they perhaps are moving and making adjustments, they still won't have tempo because you're literally like, again, you're like, hey, like this, I'm going to do this right here, And you're like, all right, cool. You came in, you're like, I did it, It's like, well, you can say what you want to. So like if you use that knee shield or using your knee with the dexterity to say, hey, like your path is to go leg weave. And then from there, you're not going to pass. I would say like, it's 100% your tempo because they either don't pass, they don't even do it at all, which they don't pass or they pass. And then you're like, well, then we know who had tempo, but funnel. It's 100% a funnel. You'll see like, even when I'm losing, I funnel. So I'm like, hey, like I'm only going to lose from certain positions because I'm just going to funnel as much as I can the entire time. It's like, I would rather die you taking my back or before I'm in bottom side control, So like, even when you're passing, my guard retention is based off of exposing my back because if you're going to pass, it's not going to be for 3. You're going to have to take my back. And then what will happen is it goes from trying to pass to trying to take the back to then when they fail and I've funneled successfully, I'm only down by an advantage now, right? So it's like, cool, no problem. But rather than saying, cool, they pass side control, and now it's 3-0. So, I think funneling is healthy from both sides of the spectrum. Defense, offense, losing and winning.
Absolutely. Every single roll I funnel.
Always.
I purposely roll to my left hip because I want to tripod sweep that side and I get my grips,
It's like, and if you just so happen to come to that way and you feel comfortable, then that's fine. Like I'm cool with you going that way. But and again, it's funny because like I used to be like, oh, I need to do something different all the time. And now I'm just like, I would say for the past, like, I don't know, like year and a half when I train, I literally just do the same shit to everybody, every role. So like if I watched me rolling with Brian a year ago compared to me rolling with Brian now, it's like, wow, he played this guard, he did the omoplata, and then that's it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I know my game. This is what I want to do. And like, yeah, I can tell you it's coming. You're not going to fucking stop it anyway, you know? So it's like, we'll just keep doing this over and over again for a couple of years. But yeah, I mean, just funnel people. Just fucking, this is how you're going to die, you know, live or die. That's it.
James talks about that too. Like when he was in, you know, when I was just chatting with him and stuff, and he talked about that, like eventually you just learn to funnel people like into your game and into what you want to do, which is, I see it obviously with him. And I can tell like when you're coaching Kristian, like when you've come in and you rolled last time you were in, you rolled at the cancer seminar. Yeah, you did. Yeah, that's right. Just watching him then, seeing him make people do things. Which, speaking of, I was in a roll this past week actually, and someone did the heavy pass that you did at the cancer seminar with the, you know, around, and they were like, Kristian seminar, and I was like, I'm on the bottom. They were doing it to me, and I was like, oh, that's awesome! Like, as I'm getting crushed, and the person, I think the person was smaller than I was, which I was like, see, it works.
This is great. Yeah,
right. It's great. I'm like, can you hurry up now and swing my legs over and get past my hips so I can just let you?
Chad's not a big dude. I mean, he's bigger than me, you know, but like, he's not a big guy, you know? So it's like the guys that are in there, especially at East Coast, that are bigger, like I'm telling you, anybody. So like Chad can always be technical. He can never be big, you know?
Right. For sure.
But the big guys can be technical and big, you know? So like, it's like, fuck, like the best thing that you guys got is the fact that Chad is not some kind of mongoloid 350 pound, 6'7" dude who's just like, I can just deliver this. And then you guys are missing the technique side. So like when you take a dude who's like blue or purple belt, any weight, but like, especially when he's bigger than Chad and implies Chad's technique, you literally have the perfection of jiu-jitsu. It's like, man, I can literally technically kill this dude and then add pressure and power
add pressure to it. Right.
And that's why you're hearing like, me too, because I need to know I'm doing a good job. Like there's sometimes I roll with certain students that like just have my number and I'm like, fuck, I gave them way too much information, you know, like, that's positive, you know, but it's like, because I can only Chad and I can only give everything we've got. Right. But now those people have everything we've got plus what they've got. Yeah. No one's giving me. No one's giving me.
No one's cutting a leg off, and you know,
sitting here like, okay, now you what's the secret? You know, like, and then now we're gonna, you know, but like that's where you're seeing that, like, man, like, and that's how you can kind of see like your growth, but you can see your growth as an instructor, you can see your growth as like, you know, you're with your partners. Like Altos is really big on that factor where like someone comes in with something and it just like melts, and rather than try to like pull off to something, yet hanger with a gear, like, you know, like whatever, maybe there's hundreds of examples in that room. Rather than try to like hold that back, he just fully gives to it. And then we'll tell you, hey, like, if you really want to stop it, it's doing this then. And if you don't do this, then I'm going to fucking guillotine you. Right. And then you learn to stop it, and it'll actually stop it. But then what happens is that Josh is now going to do something else, and he's going to guillotine you again. Right. And then what happens is this ping pong effect, right? So you're getting better. He's getting better. And then what happens when Josh goes and competes, that guy's not getting past the first one. But if he does, Josh now has a solid second 2, 3, because you had a quality response, and now you've got better guillotine defense. Right. So, I mean, like that's what it is, but it's about like this give and take all the way back. But Chad is giving and no one's giving back, you know, I'm giving and no one's giving back, you know? So, I mean, that's how you can see that. That's why it's like, yeah, I mean, someone should bury you with some shit that they've seen, and, you know, it's like, fuck, they don't need to be, it doesn't matter their belt rank. It helps sometimes, but the size will change things too. But I mean, it's a positive for an environment. It's really healthy.
That's it. I was talking, I brought this up to somebody. It might've been me and you, Terry, talking about it. And obviously I think all of us are good for cross training other places, all that good stuff, because you get a new look. But I also feel when you roll with the same people every day and they know what you're going to do, just like you're saying, it's still going to raise your game.
100%.
Right. Because of what you just explained. Right.
I think cross training is basically a validation of the work that you've put in your own environment. Right. Okay. So I think it's healthy. And I think there's like, it's that balance. You got to have that balance, you know? So like that's why when you go to a tournament, like as a black belt, like I'm like sitting here like, oh fuck, like this guy does this guy does this guy does, like
Right.
I'm studying this guy, right? But the only thing is I can only go off of what I'm seeing, and I'm not seeing what's happening in training, right? So if that guy's preparing, you know, like I can only prepare, so I can't build a robot that does the things that I just wrote down. But like that's why you want to go out there and be like, man, like I'm bringing it to my students, you know, and I'm hoping that they take the information I give them and they bring it back to me so I can evolve. But then I can go and see, well, what's the quality of people that don't have this information? Because then I can validate, like, man, my A isn't as sharp. My response to A isn't as sharp. Or like, I didn't even see this. And now this is something that I can tell people to do, whatever it may be. But I think it's very healthy. I think it's very healthy to have both, you know.
Yeah.
I think leaning just on one is one-sided. You don't have that balance. I don't think it's right or wrong. I would say like it's not the best option, you know, but like, yes, and like, hey, I'm anti cross training. Oh, okay, cool. You know, do your thing.
Right.
Hey, I'm anti only training with your people. Like, and it's like the other side where I do like 12 open mats a week and I then take one class, you know? So, I mean, I think it's a balance, but from a competitive standpoint, you heard like the verbiage of like, hey, this is the rational reason for why that is, you know? But in a competitive standpoint, you have guys that are like, hey, I need to eat. So like, we need to be on the same page here, you know? But as hobbyists, some people don't even care to hear what you're saying. So when you're like, hey, if you want to stop it, they're like, I don't give a fuck what, you pass my guard. I don't care. You know, it's like, okay, cool. Right. You know, I'll just keep passing it, you know, but it's a very awkward room for that conversation for hobbyists sometimes, but for competitors, it's a necessity, you know, but you can either do it in your environment or you can have a balance of both. But I mean, yeah, it's super, super important to have.
You're going to say something, Chad?
No, just listening.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly. That's exactly what it is. It's, you know, it's that you want that good environment too, to be encouraged to do that. And I can see a hobbyist being like, oh, well, I really don't care about that. And then that goes back to, well, the hobbyist is here for a different reason. And I'm a hobbyist too, but I would never want that attitude because I'm thinking, well, you're not going to get better. Like, why do it then? Why go here and get like beat up essentially, you know, or just, you know, guillotined and choked or loop choked or whatever over and over and over again. If you're just going to be like, I don't care. Like they came on by. It's like, well, no, wait a minute. You're doing this for all the wrong reasons then.
I think you're entitled to how you want to grow, right?
Sure.
Some people are like, hey, like me just showing up and putting in the work and eventually I'll, you know, whatever, cool, you know? So, and again, every environment's different, but like everybody wants to grow differently. I think that's why it's important to have those goals and communicate those. And then kind of, you'll start to see clicks inside of clicks because they have similar goals and whatever it may be. But I mean, yeah, in my experience, most hobbyists want to have, I think I posted about this the other day. They want to have like a level of jujitsu to where like, even if they don't compete, they could be like, well, if I did, I want to be able to do something, you know?
Right.
That's cool. You know? So like, and I'm cool with that too. But like, then there's this weird conversation that like either isn't had or like isn't believed where it's like, well, then you need to train differently. And it's like, well, nah. And I'm like, what the fuck do you know then?
Yeah.
Right. 100%.
That's usually how it is. So you always have basically what I would say, you would have like a higher demanding hobbyist is usually your average student, right? Where it's just like, hey, like, yeah, I don't want to just be here or just show up. Like I want to learn jujitsu, but like, I also want to make sure that like, I don't suck, you know,
right.
like,
sure, right.
Usually the most common thing I hear is that I want to be able to go to other academies and people don't question my belt rank. Right. But like, that's a validation thing. Right. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I can give you any belt you want to be, you know, like, but I mean, do you want to be questionable about it? Like, you know, yeah. I mean, I think it's important again, but everybody's entitled to grow how they want to. I have some people that are like, yo, I don't want to hear you talk about this. Like, I just work for 10 hours. I come here for a tribe and I just want to show up and I want to like, let go. Cool. You know, but the dude you're going with is the complete opposite. Yo, right. I don't have a job. You know, like I came here to be a professional, you know, like I need to do this concept, you know, and like, and then they're drilling and one dude's like taking a nap, you know, and the other guy's like moving around, you know? So, I mean, it's just, again, there's just so many different point of views in an environment. That's why it's healthy to have those contradicting point of views. But I mean, fuck, like you gotta, in my opinion, I would say, I think that having that desire is healthy, communicating is healthy, and keeping that standard would be healthy. But there's always a couple that go below it or above it, you know, but
sure.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, when we were talking to Wilty last week, he said he wishes there was two separate ranking systems for hobbyists and competitors because there's so big difference. You know, you look, I mean, a list of guys. You know, we've talked about Kolabate before, right? He's a purple belt now, and he's beating black belts.
Yeah,
black belts. Yeah,
and he's 16 years old, right?
17 maybe. I don't know.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
The kid is literally beating competitive elite black belts.
Black belts, right?
Like, yeah, I mean, like, it's the same thing with the twins. Like, the twins have been training than people. Like, oh, but they're only 18, they're 19. And it's like, yeah, cool. They've been training longer than you have, and you've been training for 15 years. You know, like you know, like those dudes at green belt were beating the brakes off of traveling black belts.
Yeah.
And then we're giving a tough time to competitive black belts as juvenile green. Man, the last HQ I trained with Andre's daughter, with Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
And I was egotistical, and I was like, yeah, I mean, you know, she's fucking Andre's daughter. Like, you know, like, she's good, but like, you know, like, I'll beat the brakes off her. And I gave her an inch, and she made me eat for a mile. And then I was like, oh shit. And Andre looked at me, and he's like, and I was like, oh fuck, like it's like, we're already in this. And then he's coaching her in Portuguese. And then I say to her, and I say, I know what he's saying. And, you know, and she laughs. And then I'm like, are we doing this? And she's like, let's do it. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's try. And like, man, if you took off her belt, she literally is probably a competitive adult brown belt. And she's a fucking child at blue. She just won the ropes, you know, like, it's a completely different level. But I agree. Like, I actually had, I won't say a name because I don't know if people take it negatively. I don't think I'd take it negatively, but I think I'd take it very positively. Someone very close to me who's a black belt said the day that I got my black belt, their black belt was instantly watered down because now there was more, right? And I was like, that's a tough pill to swallow, like, you know, and I get it. But like, he's like, yeah, it's great that everybody can get a black belt, but it's not that everybody should. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can get that. But then my response was, and again, like, this was a very awkward conversation. I said, LeBron James doesn't care about the worst guy in the league because he's so good that he just focuses on himself. So like, I hear what you're saying, you know, and like, I get that perhaps you feel your value has gone down, but if you were at the top, it can't go down. So just focus on you. And I mean, then that conversation kind of went in a different way, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but it's tough for me to be on BJJ Fanatics and hear people go like, well, I'm a black belt, you know, here's my information. And I'm like, dude, that's super cool. But where he's asking for information on or opinion on is not your place. But because you're a black, I mean, yeah, do your thing. But like, you're going to have Gordon coming here calling you a fucking turd, you know, and you're going to have say something, you know, and if you want to bounce back at them, you can go for it, you know. But again, a lot of those guys are just like, man, it's just not even my wavelength, you know. And it's like, it is tough though sometimes where you like, you're in a situation and it's, if you're not experienced with it, like in terms of communication, the belt ranking system gets very awkward because of the discrepancy in it, you know. And it's like, I don't know if it's similar or a comparison to like going to college and getting a degree, you know, but if like Chad and I both said, like, he was like, hey, I'm a doctor. I'm like, yeah, me too, you know. And he's like, oh, where did you study? And I go, Phoenix Online. And then he's like, cool, I went to Harvard. And I'm like, yeah, but we both have a PhD, you know. And he's like, yeah, cool, but they mean two different things. And I'm like, I don't care, you know.
Sure, right.
There's nothing wrong with Phoenix Online. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like,
hypothetically, sure.
There's an establishment of value in terms of like, but you can't see because it's masked behind this belt rank, you know. And it's like, it's tough, you know. I don't know what they're gonna do, and they're IBJJF is always making adjustments, 2 degrees to 3 degrees, promoting this and promoting that. Like, at the end of the day, like, I'm going to be too old when it changes to even care. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, at that point.
Well, you take somebody like Cole, who just got his purple belt, right? So he's got to have that for a year, right, before he can get his brown? Minimum.
Maybe a year and 6 months, but like, he literally, and I'm sure that they will promote him the way that they want to based upon his goals, but like, they could promote him tomorrow.
Right.
He wouldn't be an IBJJF, right? So, I mean, there's literally a minimum up. So that kid, I think this happened in 2011, maybe 10. Tracy Goodell from Lloyd Irvin went from blue to brown in 30 days, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
She won something and Lloyd promoted her.
Yeah.
And then she won at that new belt rank and he promoted her and they said, oh no, she can't promote. And he's like, she's the best in the world. Why can't she go up? She just won that. Like, you know, and they're like, it's not part of our system, but the system is not for elite competitors. The system is for hobbyists.
Yeah.
So even as a competitive environment and a competitive standard, it's still based on hobbyists. Why? Because that's 97% of the jiu-jitsu community.
Of the community.
Like, that's just what you follow. It's absolutely, you hear that all the time. It's like, what's his name? Deagle got promoted. And you're like, this kid's a good grappler. Yeah, but it's black belt too fast. And it's like, okay, I mean, sure. And I guess that's a great way. I think it happened to Gio. Didn't it happen to Gio? It happened to
might have.
Wait for you to compete, right? They're like, oh, you got to meet your academic probation. And you have this dude like, yeah, cool, man. Like, let's live in this make believe world. But I mean, it's dumb. Look at Micah Galval, 17, isn't he?
Yeah.
17?
I think he's 17. And technically by IBJJF standards, you have to be 19 to get your black belt, I believe. So, but that kid, I mean, he's wrecking everybody.
Right.
And like, that's the thing, is that it should be based upon competitive results and or some type of time platform, right? So like, again, if Chad, if you went out there and you won brown belt worlds and you just got your brown belt 2 weeks ago, why if you were chosen to get promoted by your instructor to black belt and then they're like, oh no, you can't. It's like, I just won worlds.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but you didn't get the time frame. Cool. So if I never win worlds but meet the time frame, I can go. Yeah, then it's not about competitive anymore. It's about something else.
Yeah, for sure. It's about something else.
ADCCs is great. Why? Because there's no belt rank requirements.
Yeah.
That's why you shift between gi to no gi and ADCCs versus IBJJF. And yeah, why are you telling me to? They want me to talk.
Hi, Nemi. How are you? You say hi.
You say hi.
Oh.
All right, go.
Hi, Chad.
Hi.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, there you go.
Do you think there'll ever be, well, okay, so ADCC they have the same, so, and I knew they didn't have, the ranks didn't matter or whatever. It's just based off weight class, right, though? If you're an 88 kilo or 69
was
kilo.
there 4 or 5 weight classes for men? I think there's 2 for women.
So, yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's only 2 for women. Is it because there's just not enough
I think so.
Women competing at that, I don't want to say that level. I'm just curious, like, out of that. Okay.
I think the problem for the women's weight class, we understand what you're saying, is just there's just the depth, So it used to be, remember, even I think for IBJJF, it was purple, brown, and black, and then it went brown and black, and then it went black, right? Because the depth is just growing. But
okay, I see
that. Hey, there's only 2 divisions for women because there's not enough depth. Because if we made 3, we then wouldn't have a full X amount of competitors. It's whatever maybe, but it's only based upon. You don't need to be a belt rank. You can either win trials or get an invite, right? But you can be, anybody can theoretically go. That's why the trials is huge, because anybody can get a chance to win, which is awesome. It's like a Willy Wonka thing, But yeah, it doesn't matter your belt rank. So the trials I went to in New Jersey, there was blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, black belts. There were people that never trained gi. There were people only like everybody was there.
Everybody, yeah.
A really cool thing,
Yeah, and the competition was awesome. It was great. All the trials have been really good. Even the Euro trials for the ADCC were really, really good. Really fun to watch.
Been super productive. I think it's been very healthy for the sport, right? So it's a great step in the continuous direction that they're going with, which is really awesome, But yeah, it's been super cool.
Obviously you both, and we've talked about this in the past, about the community growing. Do you think that'll even say that because of social media or because the way we're seeing content put out there, do you think it'll get even bigger, let's say 3 to 5 more years from now, or is always growing?
Chad, what do you think?
About get bigger? I mean,
Chad was like, I didn't hear him. He didn't say anything. Go ahead, Chad.
I would see how couldn't it not get any bigger, right? I mean,
with the amount of students coming in the schools, like you still get a good amount to come in to Logic, right, Kristian?
Yeah.
Always getting new students. young, older, kids program. Same thing with the East Coast with Chad and the youth program and even guys like, I just talked about a guy who came in first time this week, and there was more than just him there. But I'm always curious, like, do we see it just continuously growing, and then have stuff like this, like shows like this, where we're trying to give as much information and positivity to people out there, both BJJ and life in general. That's
I think personally, like the biggest rah-rah for the jiu-jitsu community is the UFC. So like, if there's an outsider thing, like I don't hear too many people saying, I have no idea what jiu-jitsu is, and I went to the 80cc event and now I want to do jiu-jitsu,
Right.
I think jiu-jitsu is growing, but like for the most part, it's people that are seeing some type of understanding of like a martial art being offered, and they have an idea of what a martial art is, and they want to get involved. I don't think jiu-jitsu is at that point yet to where it's like a household name in the United States. I think it could perhaps. I think that the competitive nature for jiu-jitsu is growing in the sense of the opportunities that exist for the athletes, the opportunities that exist for people to watch it, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, in terms of growing, like I'm not seeing a boom, like it's been the same thing for X amount of years. And as UFC, I don't think UFC will ever go away. I think MMA is.
Yeah, right.
So I think it's always going to be there. And I think what I've noticed the most in terms of change, in terms of like the people that are not experienced coming in, is that it used to be MMA was jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, and wrestling, but now MMA is an actual martial art. People are going to MMA academies and taking MMA classes, where maybe 5 or 6 years ago, you went to an MMA academy and took jiu-jitsu and took wrestling and then took striking. But now like there's people that like, just like, no, I've only been training MMA, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, what does that mean? It's like, well, yeah, I don't know. We train MMA, and they're training the sport, which is great, So, I mean, I think that's a little bit of a different thing, and that's really, really cool too. But I think it's like Chad's saying, like, I don't think it can't grow, Yeah. I think that like, I don't know if it's going to be in the Olympics. I don't know whatever it may be, but I mean, I think that jiu-jitsu's best asset is the UFC and MMA. And I think that jiu-jitsu is always going to have a place there. And I don't think jiu-jitsu is going to get replaced with any other grappling. Like I think wrestling is great. Sambo is great, but I think jiu-jitsu is going to stay where it's at for a long time unless someone makes something up. But I mean, I think it's inevitable. It's just going to stay growing.
Yeah. And I think Kristian's spot on with the UFC, so when I started martial arts back in the 80s, to date myself, it was because of Bruce Lee and the Kung Fu movies I watched or whatever. Sure. And then, why'd you do jiu-jitsu? Well, I started watching the UFC and Hoist Gracie. Now I get guys coming in. I ask them, well, what brought you here? Well, I heard Jocko talk about jiu-jitsu on his podcast, or I heard Joe Rogan talk about it. So that's where we're at, as far as getting.
I heard this LimitLess Radiocast guys, some nut jobs talking about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So when you first asked that question, Terry, I was on the 80cc side and thinking, did you mean if that was going to get bigger? So I was looking at it a different way and thinking that's going to definitely get bigger and bigger. I feel with the more money. I mean,
and now that's a good question. Nuts. Do you think 80cc can get bigger than IBJJF?
I think it already is, right? I mean,
would you say it already is?
Because of the financial output, for sure. I mean, Gordon Ryan just landed $100,000 sponsorship.
Yeah. For one event.
For one event.
One event. So IBJJF still has that credibility. People still want to be a world champion, whether they say they don't or not, I feel. But 80cc, I think, has passed it up for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I think they said that the next trials on the West Coast is even bigger than it was on the East Coast, right? So, I mean, you're now having events that are one-day events.
Yeah.
This is a trial that are matching what IBJJFs are, right? Again, there's way less politics behind it. There's not charging for this, that, all this other stuff. So, I mean, I think jiu-jitsu is going to be IBJJF is going to get pushed into a corner sooner rather than later, and they're going to have to make some adjustments. Whether it's like, we're going to, even paying black belts is not going to do much, because so many other people. But I mean, the 80cc title is becoming more valuable than the IBJJF world title, you know? So I think that's to the mass. Like, not like even the competitors like, well, I'm not going to go to worlds. I already won worlds. I'm going to go to ADCCs, you know, but like the masses are like, man, like I think winning ADCCs is way, way cooler or more important than winning worlds. Right. So I think that shift is taking place. I don't know what the fuck IBJJF would do, but I mean, they're just in a bad spot. Again, they're sucking money. They're bleeding everybody in terms of what you can do and how you can do it. They try to make a stand with specific standard of what human beings can represent the IBJJF sport, and then not hold anybody accountable to the degree that they say they will. Right. So like, it's just going to put them in a spot. And Mo, Seth, and what's the other guy? I apologize. There's a couple of guys that are involved in ADCC. Yeah. And they're just kind of like, bro, we're 100% on this path. We're not slowing down. We're not selling. We're not making corners. The only thing that I can say negatively, because I need to throw in the contradicting devil's advocate situation, is that ADCCs makes a statement that it's the most elite of elite, and you either get an invitation based upon your success in no-gi, or you win at trials. And they invited Murgali, who hasn't won anything in no-gi, has only competed in the gi, and he didn't win trials. And that's kind of where like they lost me in that last percentage. Yeah, he's still an elite competitor, so I get it. But I mean, yeah. It's still a political who knows who type of thing, just like IBJJF is. I can knock it on the scale if I want to, or pass my, you know. So I get that, but I mean, it's still light years ahead where IBJJF is, and there's going to be a huge shift. It already has shifted. You know, like you have kids talking about, I want to do ADCC trials, and I'm like, do you want to go to PANS? And they're like, no, and I'm like,
no. You're like, oh,
go.
Yeah, for sure.
IBJJF makes it hard just on some things, like just get registered in your memberships. And
well, did you hear? I think it was Pablo Silva made a huge thing where he's like, and I'm saying in his Brazilian accent, IBJJF, you want me to come and bring my students, but you wait until Wednesday to tell me they fight on Friday and they must take off work for 6 days, and this is not realistic.
Right.
Like, just tell me what the schedule is if you want me to come. You know,
yeah.
So like, just like you're saying, they make it way too difficult.
It's tough, man. So I was trying to help Jay Stu get registered for the Indianapolis Open, and he competed last when he was a white belt. So we went into his profile. The only two ranks available were white and blue. There was no purple, brown, black, right?
Yep.
So I emailed them for him to try to help him out. They're like, oh, we need to talk to him. And then they made him send a photo ID of himself. So somebody might try to steal your profile. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So he finally got his membership, and they closed the gi portion. So now he can only do no gi too. Of
course.
So just like a runaround, you know?
Listen, I think that they're doing their best. I don't know. You know, and I think that they're doing something. Their existence, although it's not all great, is still doing something that's positive for the sport, right? Mm-hmm. So like, they didn't exist at all, be way, way less of value. But like, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of old dudes sitting around at a table just laughing, and they're like, ha ha, you know, like, cool. I mean, whatever, but it makes it so hard. Like ADCC, sign up.
Yeah, sign up and do the trials.
Just sign up and do it.
That's it. Here's the day you're going to compete. Here's the address. See you there. You know, like, cool, no problem. You know, I signed up for Pan Am 6 months ago. Do you know when I go? We'll let you know 2 days before.
Awesome.
You have an idea? It's one of the. There's 6 days. You're possibly on one of three. Okay, got it. You know, when will you know? Day before. Fuck. Okay, got it. You know, like, thanks. You know, so it's just, it's tough. I mean, even from a hobbyist standpoint, competitor standpoint, instructor standpoint, supporter standpoint, like, I mean, like, that's tough. You know, so like but I mean, in the end, they don't care because they're still getting X amount of competitors and they're paying the bills and
a lot of money.
That's the thing. Yeah,
you can't imagine the amount of money they make for memberships. It's like outrageous.
Or you got to fly to Ireland to get points. You know, I mean, things happen.
Stupid. you want what? No, you need points. Okay, cool. No problem. Why? We don't care if you sign up for super heavy and there's no one in there, but you need points. Okay, got it. So this isn't about anything other than money. I understand. You know, like, it's outrageous.
Right. Now I understand. Thank you.
Let's talk 2.0, Kristian, before we get off track and run out of time.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, or do you just want me to openly talk about it?
You just open it up.
I want you to, tell us all about it, man. Cause I know you put a lot of work into it, and I know it's changed, and you're always, evolving in what you, and you know, how you want to approach things and how you want to give information and content to people. So get after it.
So Logic Online 1.0 was cool. It was all right. You know, it was like, you know, you would bring it to a party, but probably not twice type of thing, you know, and I wanted to establish a foundation while communicating with people that like, hey, this is what exists now. And this is what we're pushing for. Right. And the one thing that I wanted to consistently establish as best as I could, the most unique feature of Logic BJJ Online was the fact that I was available for the people, right? So I'm not aware of, and maybe it's possible, of any valuable online platforms, and I'll drop a few: AOJ's website, Atos's website, you know, what else? Marcelo's website. There's a couple of ones, right? But I don't think that I can sign up for Braulio Estima in Action online or whatever it is, and then say, hey, Braulio, like, can you explain this to me or have a problem? Because that's not what he does on that website, right? So I wanted to make sure that people were getting quality content, conceptually, technique, whatever it may be. But I also wanted to say like, hey, I'm here, you know? And even when you tell people that, they're still like, yeah, I'm just not going to use that facade. It's a free private lesson, but do what you want to with it anyway, right? So Logic 1.0 was successful because we established I signed up like 200 something members, and the retention there was pretty good. It was like from month to month, it was around like 98%, you know, we were signing up a decent amount of people. But I realized that if the party sucked and people were still enjoying it, that how can we make the party better and increase this thing, right? So 2.0 took a little bit more time than I wanted to, but now we have a more interactive platform. It's got a couple of unique features that are right off the bat, some more unique features that are going to make it even more unique. But I want to give people the ability to understand that YouTube is a great resource, but it has no structure. It has no communication in terms of, what if I have questions? How do I get through this? You know? So Logic BJJ Online is unique in that way, you know? So I have people literally, I don't know why, and it's partially my problem, but I'll have someone in Poland being like, this is a great technique, but I'm here and this is the problem that I have. And I'm fucking like, oh, okay, cool. 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, hey, blah, 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 this, blah, blah, that, you know, but that's what builds that relationship and that retention, you know? So we've successfully also grown with 2.0 since it being launched like a month-ish ago. So things are going really well. I've added some unique features that are cool again, but I mean, yeah, it's cool. It's growing the way that I want to, but I'm trying to do something with it that not a lot of people are doing. And I think that I would say that the natural idea of what a online platform is still like, people think Logic BJJ falls in line with that. So it doesn't get, I want more respect for it than it gets. So when I talk about people about like, hey, like, what problems you're going with? Do you want to sign up to this? They're like, well, I can't learn watching stuff off YouTube. Like I need to train. I can't train with you. And I'm like, I mean, this is way better than you think it is. But, you know, like if you actually show up thinking that, it's hard, you know? So the problem that I'm having right now is just basically trying to connect with people in the community. I'll drop names if I have to, but, and basically marketing Logic BJJ Online and its uniqueness, because a lot of people are just like, no one wants to learn online, and I'm like, here's you try it out, look at it, watch, see what happens. But it's just, it doesn't have enough kind of momentum behind it to really get out there. And I think that online learning is kind of a little bit slower, which is fine. But I mean, I don't know what people are doing, but for $20 a month, I'm even giving people discounts, you know, for $14 a month, you're getting what, you know? And It's like, to me, that's mind blowing, you know? And it's like, even if I didn't even fucking talk to you and I uploaded videos of my class that I'm charging $200 a month for people to take, $14 to be a fly on the wall is a fucking no-brainer. But I mean, people are like, I just can't afford it. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to question your integrity. Like, you do what you want to, you know, don't fucking buy 2 Starbucks this month, but I mean, do what you want to do, you know, but it's tough because I'm just trying to build up a standard that currently exists in the community, which is just buy my technique video, buy my DVD. And it's like,
I was going to say that, like, someone's going to go out and spend $120, $150 on BJJ Fanatics and not even devote themselves to it because they're trying to learn it on them. There's no one there to interact with them. As you're stating, Logic 2.0 is you're interacting with the people who are members of this platform.
Yeah.
It's the best of both worlds, because it's like, hey, you can see something and then you can reach out and Kristian's going to get back to you guys. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just thinking, man, like, yeah, people are willing to spend $120, $30 on Fanatics stuff all the time, which good. I want you guys to support those guys too, because it's very 100%. Important.
Yeah.
But what Kristian's talking about is a completely different view of doing BJJ. You can learn online. It's not a different way, like as
if Gordon, I mean, I respect Gordon's jiu-jitsu, right?
Sure.
If Gordon said to me like, yo, Kristian, if you pay me $100 a month, I'll give you the ability to ask me any jiu-jitsu questions and I will answer them at this high level. I would pay. And I would literally say, like, not to be a dick, my jiu-jitsu is better than 99% of the people. And so it's like, I probably don't want that, but I would take. Why? Because it's the value of it is astronomical, you know? Like, yeah, if Gordon was like, hey, check out this DVD and it's $120, I could still learn from it 100%. The problem is, again, is that how do I watch it and then talk to him as if it was a private lesson? You know, like, again, like it's my students see the value because they have me all the time, you know, but like my students, they get it, you know, they're like, yeah, I even have students that are like, I'm a member of Logic Online because if I miss class or I missed something, I can double up. Right.
Double up.
Yeah. Like, so they see the value, but again, like I think there's just this natural, you know, understanding of like what online learning is. And I'm hoping it changes. I'm trying to do my best to change it, but yeah, I talk to people, even on BJ Fanatics, someone's like, man, that was a great point of view. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, what would you suggest? And I'm like, Logic BJJ Online, you know? And they're like, you're like, oh, is that yours? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, like, well, maybe if you were teaching a seminar, let me know. I'm like, yo, okay, sure. You want to come to a seminar? Like, I'm literally going to answer only your questions during that seminar. And like, that's it. You know, like, there's just this weird thing where people are just like, I'm just not into it. And I'm like, all right, cool. You know, I mean, it is what it is. But like I said, I think we're in a niche market and then it's even more smaller and smaller, but yeah, it's like I said, like I'm very blessed. It's doing well, you know, but I know it will grow, but I mean, yeah, there's just this weird thing about it, you know, and like, I don't know, you know, like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like I would recommend it to me and I would, it is what it is.
I would recommend it to everyone and anyone out there listening, because I had the ability to have several seminars with Kristian and even a surprise teaching of class because he was in town. So yeah. I've had a lot of content, not to mention I always watch his stuff online and whatnot. So yeah. Sweet. And this is a guy that's a white belt. So trust me. Like
that's the thing too. Like, man, I have to like go in there and check again, but I have a decent amount of black belts that will message me and be like, hey, like I'm teaching this video on your website, like next week, like, do you have any pointers? Like, what are some questions that I should expect to be asked? And I'm sitting here like, man, like, should I be charging more money for Logic?
Right.
So I know somebody else has like I don't know his name, so I'm sorry, but like, I know somebody else, there's a black belt that has a membership website and he literally has two different prices and one's for students and one's for instructors.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And I get that too, but like, I'm like, I don't need to break the bank here. Nemesis. I don't need to break the bank here making money off of people that I want you to like the website, you know, like, and enjoy it for what it is, you know, but like,
does that complicate it too?
Like going two levels?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it's possible. I think like basically what it's doing is like, hey, like if you use the website just for taking information in and not making money off of it, I'm cool with you doing this. But if you want to make money off it, you need to pay me more.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I don't really care. I mean, like, it would be great if that dude who's messaging me would be like, hey, this really is helping me out a lot because I suck at teaching, you know? And I'm like, yeah, that's no problem, you know? And he's like, you know, I'm telling all my students they should also sign up on your website, you know? But to be blunt with you, I'm pretty sure he feels insecure. And this is a way of him increasing his confidence and security. And he probably doesn't want his students knowing that he's learning from me to then teach them what they're learning. So they'd be like, well, what are you doing? You know, like, so I get both sides and I'm just trying to be respectful, but man, there's a lot of like, again, like I have people like, well, how'd you teach kids class? And I'm like, look, what about this? Look, you know, like, so you're getting instructors, you're getting students, you're getting white belts to black belts. It's all competitors, hobbyists, like it's all there. So trying to make it something that's for everybody it's a little bit more challenging, but I mean, eventually I think it'll work.
Yeah. And it's a shame. And it's probably never going to change where an instructor can't be confident to say, I don't know, but I'll get you an answer. Right. Or let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know?
I literally, it's not a very common thing because I like the way that I shape the conversation, but I'll say, I don't know. And I'm going to be like, man, I can give you my opinion on this, but just know that I have no reps. I can tell you from like an intelligent point of view, but like, I have a student who is anti-Christian jiu-jitsu in my academy. Love him. He doesn't do anything that I do. Yeah. And he really shows up, he learns, he's a member on the website. And I'm like, and he's like, man, I'm here and I'm having this problem. Like, I know who you need to talk to. I know who you need to watch. And I'll tell him to go. Yeah. And he's like, man, that was great information. I'm like, yeah, perfect. No problem solved. But I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with saying that. I think that's important, being an authentic leader. Like there was times where like people would ask Andre something. He's like, man, yeah, I don't fucking know. And he's like, man, this is what I do. I know this, like, I can only tell you what I know, but the great thing about HQ was there was like so many different games where he's like, oh, go talk to this guy. He knows, like, all right, cool. But a lot of people get in, it is what it is. But,
especially in this world, the jiu-jitsu community. Yeah.
And it's some of that's so hard to answer too, because you're in the moment. So what would I do? I'm not sure until it happens. Yeah. Right?
That's even better. People say like, well, what would you do here? And I'm like, I literally go, like, no, I wouldn't even be there.
I wouldn't, right.
And they're like, but what if you were? And I'm like, but I wouldn't,
But I wouldn't.
And they're like, okay, but if you were, and I'm like, if I were, I would go talk to Bernardo Faria because I don't over under pass, like that's what I'm, like,
sure, right.
But it's tough. Right. Yeah. And I think often at times, the leader of the people that they feel like they need to know. And it's like, I mean, you don't need to know the answer, but you should know where the answer can be found. And I think that's a healthy way of putting it, but yeah.
I know a lot of my guys joke when they ask me a question and I'll be like, it depends. It really does depend on a lot of different things, And I always tell people, like when I'm showing something, there's a basic response that most people are going to have. They're going to do these 3 to 5 things, right? Then you're going to have those outliers that totally mess up your whole thing you were trying to do.
Yep, 100%.
You're even shaping it and being like, hey, like, I may not have this specific information, but like, this is way what you're not thinking. And I can shape all this for you. And then when you get here, I guarantee your question is going to go away, but sure. Like I said, it's a very unique thing, but yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome. So go out there, everybody, and sign up for.
Oh, you're so sweet. Did we talk about, you want to do a limitless thing and we can give like a discount to people or something? We can do that too.
Yeah, we can do whatever you want.
Sure, man.
Whatever you guys want. So we can attach like a trial thing. We can attach like a discount code to it. Like we do like limitless, whatever it may be. And then we can attach a trial thing. But yeah, I mean, again, like even when people sign up, I literally message them when they sign up and I go, your job is to use the website and message me with any questions, thoughts, concerns, or ideas. Nice. And then people are like, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally. 3 months later, and then they're like, oh, hey man, like this is really great. But when I go, have you been using it? And they're like, yeah. And I can literally go into the hot chart and see how many times they've logged in, how long they were on the website for, And I'm like, oh, what'd you think about this video? And they're like, and I go, yeah, cause I can see what you're doing, but it's like, man, just talk to someone. That's it. Just talk to me. Because that, again, like for me, but I know that increases the retention and the quality of the service. So like, I'm trying to hold them accountable, but you can lead the horse to water. You can't make them drink, but
right. Yeah, 100%.
Most part, like I know people are busy. Some people don't need to ask me questions, which is great, but there's some people that do, and they could get lost in the sauce. So it's important for them to ask.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we can hook it up with the limitless fan.
We'll do, what do you want to, hey, let's do this, everybody out there listening. So it's going to be in the show notes, and what we'll do is we'll throw something together and we'll put it in the show notes. We'll work out with Kristian, like what we'll call it limitless something. Maybe like limitless logic. I don't want to overburden people with long names.
We'll do like limitless and then the discount that exists. Limitless.
Yeah. 20, okay.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll do that. And then everybody, I encourage you guys greatly, obviously share it and go out there in terms of where people can get great content for Kristian, because it's quite amazing. So anyway, yeah, good stuff. And we'll have how to get to Kristian too. Like I said, he's been on the show before, so we'll put every ability for him to get connected, for you guys out there to get connected to him.
Slide in those DMs.
Slide in those DMs.
Questions about the website. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
For sure. All right, my man. We're going to let you get back after your night.
Got to have dinner with the girls. Yeah.
All right. Right on, brother. Cool. Appreciate you so much, man. Thanks for hanging with us, Kristian. As always, you're family, brother, forever. So, oh, yes. I want to ask you about that real quick before I go. What's up with a shirt, man? Is this, I've not seen this shirt before. This
is really old.
That's an old one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute. Nice.
It's a really old shirt, but I'll get you some Logic stuff that's about to drop soon. I'll send you guys a care package for the boys at Limitless, but just wait for it to come out.
Cool. All right, brother.
Yeah.
We'll see you. All right, man.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Brother.
Love you
All
too,
right.
man. Take it easy.